Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Arcade. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at a new audio mod that I did to the MVSX Pro, and that is the headphone jack I mounted to the front of the control deck. It works really well. It was super easy to install. It just took a simple drill and one little piece that was $8 on Amazon and required no soldering. Okay, so before diving in, if you haven't seen my previous videos on the MVSX Pro Edition, I highly recommend going back through my playlist and checking those out. The MVSX Pro Edition is simply an MVSX that I hacked to use real arcade hardware. I get a true arcade experience with the MVS and MVS cartridges every single time I sit down and play this wonderful little bar top in my dining room. Okay, so here's the inside of the units inside the control deck right here, and I'm going to try to bring it up here. Got these speaker wires here. This is the headphone jack. Let's see if I can see that in the camera. Yes, this is the headphone jack right here, and this is a 3.5mm pass-through, which means that there's no soldering required. This is essentially coming from the LCD controller board where my audio is coming out from, and it just gets plugged directly into the back here. The side on the front, where this is mounted, where you stick the headphones into, is obviously female, so it's just a pass-through. Now, as far as the audio goes, for the volume, I get loads of questions about audio. I'm going to try to answer them as much as I can. I put this potentiometer here, and this is the original knob that came with the MVSX.
I have to go back to the hell again.
As you see, I can control the volume. And these wires coming out of the potentiometer are going to this small board. This small board actually came in a PC thing that it's for your PC. You're supposed to set it on your desk. It was black. It had a knob on the top. You put your headphones into it. The other side comes from the monitor. And you could essentially just control the volume going to your headphones or speakers with this small device that was just sitting here on your desk, I desoldered the potentiometer, as you see right there. That's where it used to be. And I put these, the reason why I had to desolder is to fit it here, to mount it to the board properly here, because this little chipboard wouldn't fit there. So I kind of did a breakout with these wires. The wires are super long because I just wanted more space, to fit this in here. I'm fitting a lot of stuff inside of my MVSX. So here's the inside of my MVSX. This wire right here is a splitter. One end of the splitter is going to the potentiometer, where I turn it up and down. The other end of that, from the other side of that little red board, is coming out and going into here. Now, the other side of the splitter is going directly to that headphone jack that you saw. So I have two sources of audio output. One is going to the jack, and one is going to the amplifier. Now the volume of this is at 50%. I keep it at around 50%. I control the volume with this little board right here. This board comes with the LCD controller board. It just wasn't any of my other previous videos. I just didn't have it plugged in. Now, I can control the volume just by hitting these buttons right here, going up and down. So I keep it at 50% for a very specific reason. First of all, I don't have to mess with the audio volume that's going to the headphone jack. It is perfect. When I plug in the headphones, it is set at a perfect level. It's not distorted, it's not too loud, it's not too low. And the audio that's coming out of it, that's going to the amplifier, is being drained by the OSSC. Like I said, I have the OSSC set to about -12 decibels. And so the audio coming out of the OSSC through HDMI is already really low. And then this being mid, the amplifier is the absolute controller. That way I could get good dynamic range just by controlling it at the amplifier. But I'm technically only controlling the equalizer there because, again, the volume, this is the volume button here for the amplifier. I'm actually controlling the volume on the front of the control deck on that potentiometer that you just saw. This is the bass shaker, this big black thing down here. The wires coming out of that are going into the subwoofer output right here. Now, the reason why I put the bass shaker and these two really big speakers that you see up here at the top onto this system is because when I first purchased the MVSX, the audio was so weak. And I just wanted it to sound better. Now, I know this isn't an optimal place to put these speakers. Obviously, the MVS touts that it has really good audio because they're front-facing speakers. Now that's super easy. All I have to do is put a sound bar right here, and I kept the wooden circles here. I could just put them back in and just glue them back in if I ever wanted to, and just put a big black sound bar at the top to kind of match what the original MVS was like, kind of. So I was considering doing that. They are really cheap. There's one that fits perfectly up here according to the dimensions on Amazon, and it's like 35 bucks. So I think I might try that at some point, but I think I also want to keep these speakers here. I really like the way these sound. So that's me trying to answer the audio as best as I can. I had serious issues with audio and video with this old hardware, and it turned out that this audio, the way this is set up right here, is kind of weird. I have the audio coming out of here, and it's going into the cable. This is the Stone Age Gamer RGB SCART cable. I purchased a really expensive cable from Poland, like maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever I first no, actually it's longer than that. When I first purchased my Neo Geo AES, I purchased this really expensive SCART cable that everyone loved. It had audio, but it was RCA audio, and it had the RGB connector, and it went into SCART. And it worked really well with my AES, but for some reason it sucked with my MVS, because if I used the audio out with that cable, I was getting this weird wave of pixels that are called HDMI sparkles, is what people were calling it on Reddit. So the way I got around the HDMI sparkles was to buy a new SCART cable, and also a really high-speed HDMI cable. If you're going to, jump through all of these hoops to play old games, especially on older hardware, I highly recommend getting a nice high-speed, certified, HDMI cable. Both of those things together got completely rid of the HDMI sparkles, and I now have the OSSC set to 5 times the lines, and it's razor sharp. It is razor sharp. There's no artifacts, there's nothing on the screen, and the sound is brilliant. Okay, so the final piece I'd like to show is the LED bar that was used to replace the LED bar that was in the original marquee. The only reason why I replaced that was because I absolutely could not find the voltage and amperage required to power that LED bar. Now this white right here is plugged in here via USB. This is a USB powered LED bar that's on the other side of this piece of white wood that you see in the back here. And to turn it on, I use this. I put it on this mode to be really bright, or I put it on this number 2 to be dim, which is kind of odd to me. Why would you put it on 2 to make it darker? I don't know. But I kind of keep it on the dimmest version. Setting rather, because it's absolutely perfect. But that is the LED marquee itself. I will show you what the 2 variations look like. Let me plug it in. Okay, so that's on the dim setting, and that's off, and this is on the brightest setting. The dimmest setting, it offsets with the screen when the lights are low in my dining room and kitchen perfectly. So that's why I keep it at the lowest setting. Okay, so for this little template, this little logo that you saw in the beginning of the video, I actually found a company online called Zabo's Arcade that makes replacement panels for an actual MVS. Now, on their site, they actually had a pretty good picture, as you see here, of the actual part. I just kind of blew the picture up and used the pen tool in Photoshop and replicated that and also making the headphones, the font a little bit bigger, and then just cutting it out on my Cricut machine in white premium vinyl. So one cool side effect to using 3.5mm splitter coming from the LCD controller board to the headphone jack is, watch this. Now that isn't turning the sound on the speakers whenever I unplug the headphones, it's just that more signal's going to the amplifier. If I have the volume turned up on the volume knob really high, you'll still hear the audio slightly in the amplifier whenever I'm using the headphones, but the headphone audio is at perfect level. So thank you so much for watching this episode of In the Arcade. Right about now, I think the MVSX Pro Edition is complete. It is in the perfect place that I want it to be. Now it would be a great time to, just relax and spend some time going through my MVS library and playing all of these awesome titles. So again, if you haven't yet, please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Have a good evening, friends.